Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our review of the Blacklist Season 9, Episode 11, The Conglomerate. Who wants camel's milk, everyone? Is this the part where we just start passing it around and pouring it into the glasses and everything else?
After seeing those pictures, I kind of did a little research on camel's milk. Apparently, it's really good for you.
Reddington is a visionary. Who would have thought? He is ahead of the curve when it comes to the camels. It's funny because there were these promotional photos that were put out, and one of them was of Reddington holding that jug.
Yeah.
For some reason, I never put it together that that was the camel's milk. Maybe that's probably a good thing that I didn't put that together.
Oh, Matt.
Okay,
Oh,
well,
Matt.
we will talk about the conglomerate. We have a lot to talk about because yet again, we get to discuss a tracker when it comes to the blacklist.
There's a lot of theories that were just running through my head when I heard about this tracker again. I'm like, is this a new tracker? Is it the old tracker? Why is it actually in Liz's grave? I mean, there's a lot of questions, but I actually think that this particular story is gonna give some answers for the "is Liz still alive" theory.
Okay, well, before we get into any and all of this, of course, hit that subscribe button. We are here throughout the week to discuss all
Yep.
things Blacklist. We have all of our reviews, we have previews. This show is hopefully only going to get crazier. Of course, they've thrown another hiatus at us with the next episode is like 2 weeks away.
I know, but we will still be here every week bringing you some theory discussion. We'll have some preview stuff. So hit that subscribe button and follow us over on Instagram, Matt and Jess TV.
Okay, the first thing I think we should address here is the thing that you literally just said a minute ago, and that is the "is Liz still alive" theory.
Yeah, this theory it's in our comments a lot. I've seen
Yeah.
on social media there's, a group of people who do think that Liz is still alive. And I understand why. This show has faked deaths and faked Liz's death before. So, could they do it again? Sure. This show loves to fake a death. However,
Yeah.
Megan Boone is not coming back. Like, I just do not think she is coming back. I don't feel good about that. And for a while, there was also the theory that she would be, a Serenoid and she would be a brand new actress sort of thing. And I just don't think they're going in that direction. They haven't brought that Serenoid thing up
No.
since it happened. It's not an overall arc.
I just think she's dead. This has been sort of my feeling on it ever since they killed her off. Is just they already did so much in the is this person alive or dead category through this show over the years that if they're going to do something like this with Liz at this point, I think they have to have it stick. And I think the opening of this episode with Park is yet another reminder of, okay, you know what? This is the end of the road for Liz. I just don't see any other way around it that would be remotely believable at this point.
Yeah, I feel even more confident now that we had this episode tonight where Park was in the morgue with Liz, saw her body, saw her face, was there with the pathologist. It's just, I really think she's dead. And yes, I know we all didn't get to see her face because Megan Boone is no longer on the show.
Yeah.
She was not going to come in and do that. But could she be faking a death on the table? Sure. Park wasn't there for the autopsy. She was offered, you want to stay for the autopsy? No, I'm good. I'm going to leave. So is it possible that the morgue attendant, did a switcheroo and whatever? Sure, anything is possible, but is it likely? No, it really isn't likely. The pathologist probably went ahead, did the autopsy, and it's done.
It's also possible that I am Elizabeth Keene's brother. Like, a lot of things could theoretically be yes, I am actually Matt Keene. I have been Matt Keene for these entire... No, it's just like, it's too far of a reach at this point. And I just feel like rather than the, is Liz still alive discussion, I think the show really wants us to have another discussion about a stinking tracker because we have not had enough of those.
Yeah, so during this episode, we had the idea that maybe there was a tracker on her clothing.
Yeah.
So we had this situation where Reddington had an opportunity to have Aram go over the clothing and see if there was a tracker there. There is nothing there. Okay, fine.
Yes.
So once they actually got a better lead through Park, who was kind of like, wherever the last, ping was, that's where the tracker is, start from there. And Reddington decides to follow that lead and finds that the last location of the tracker, is in Liz's grave. So now we have a much bigger discussion, because if this was the tracker, like the tracker that she had with Townsend and all that led them out to the bunker and led them wherever, then how did that same tracker actually end up with her in a grave?
Yeah.
So all her clothes were removed. All her organs were removed. She had an autopsy. Then they, I'm sure, put her in other clothes to put her, into her casket and into the ground. So that would mean that somebody decided to put that Townsend tracker back in her clothes. For what reason? Like, she's not going anywhere. She's dead. She's in the ground. The only reason that could maybe be out there, but it's a reach, is if somebody thinks she's still alive and she's somehow going to open that casket and crawl herself out the ground, and they want to know where she's going to go. I just don't think it's the Townsend tracker anymore.
I don't think it's the Townsend tracker either. And by the way, great tease for the final 8 episodes of The Walking Dead. That's actually going to be Megan Boone's next role. No, I really, okay, this is sort of where my theory is on this right now. And number 1, this is very outlandish. Number 2, there is a good chance that this is probably not the case. Number 3, I don't understand the reasoning, but I'm saying it anyway.
Here we go.
Here's what happened. So at some point before Liz embarks on her final journey, she obviously gets that tracker put on her. Maybe it was put on her at some point by someone established with Townsend's organization, just to ensure that, they knew what she was doing. They were covering their bases no matter what was going on. But apparently the tracker was not there it was not there for the autopsy or whatever else. It was not there, on Liz's clothing. So here's what must have happened. Somebody must have, at some point before the autopsy, gone in there and taken that tracker away, and then found a way to put it back on her when she was buried, because maybe they were like, oh shoot, this is going to turn up in the autopsy. We don't want that. Like, that's going to be a huge problem. And maybe they didn't want it out there for whatever reason still in the world. This is the part that makes no sense. So, okay, here's what happens. They then, either it is at the funeral home or at the grave or whatever, they just take that tracker and they just like toss it into the grave, and then they just sort of have that be the end of it.
Which is pretty easy to do. I actually watched a funeral director friend of mine watch her glasses slip right off her face and fall into a grave.
Oh no.
She was so embarrassed.
This is why I'm really happy to have a former funeral director on this video, because I feel like you can make a lot of these ideas plausible because you have seen them.
Okay, this is what I think could have happened. It's also kind of outlandish. I'm not sure. It's a little out there, but I mean, this show has done some stuff that, I'm kind of like, wow, I wouldn't have ever thought that. It's a little bit on the edge of a sci-fi here. It's possible that maybe at some point Townsend or one of his doctors or someone actually inserted a tracker into her, and before everybody's minds goes somewhere, I'm talking about somewhere in the head, like maybe the back of the neck or somewhere that isn't removed during autopsy.
Yeah.
It would have to be really somewhere, maybe in between the toes, in between, somewhere that maybe the pathologist, maybe they got lucky and they got like a really lazy pathologist that's just like, heart, organs, brain, all right, we good. Just, package it up and go. And they didn't take their time. I mean, everybody has people who are apathetic in every job. So maybe they just got kind of lucky that the pathologist just was like, I want to get home. So let's just wrap this up.
Yeah. Anything I think at this point could be possible depending on how the show works to explain a lot of it. And, this is something I'm really curious about right now is, did they always know at the end of season 8 that they were going to be going in this place with the tracker? Because they don't leave a lot of openings as to how and where and why this could all be inserted. There's not even a list of a lot of candidates out there for who could have done the placing of said tracker.
Except maybe Townsend or, his group. But if there is somebody else, I mean, I just can't see anybody else except it's got to be with Townsend. I mean, because Van Dyke was his, number one guy. So, maybe, I don't know. All I know is if they end up exhuming her body.
Yeah.
That's the end of the Liz is
Yes.
alive theory. Once she's been pulled out of the ground, and they know that it's her, test that it's her, 2 years later, she's not alive anymore.
Here is what I think the Blacklist is going to do when it comes to uncovering the truth. We're going to have a game of Blacklist telephone where something is going to happen and then that's going to relate to somebody else and then that person's going to tell someone else something. Like, I think whoever placed the tracker is probably not like who is directly ultimately responsible, just because they probably want to string us all along for another 7 or 8 episodes and make us collectively miserable and frustrated along the way.
I'm hoping that it's not going to be quite that bad anymore. This season now it's been a little bit different than it has been in the past. I mean, the first 8 seasons, they were wildly complicated in a lot of ways. Great storytelling, very complicated, lots of stuff to, dissect and talk about, which has been really good. This season has also been really good, but for a different reason. And it's because we're getting questions and then we are kind of getting some answers, or we're getting somewhere with some answers, and things are kind of coming together, which is nice for a change. Not everything, but some stuff.
I hope you are right. I would like to see a change. I would like to see a reveal some point soon. I will say my favorite scene of this episode was the scene with Aram and Reddington, where they're talking about sort of examining, the clothing to try to figure out the tracker. And Reddington is just like, it's not, Liz is in the ground. And he just says it. It just looks like very way that at first it felt very heartless, but then it was just like, oh, that's Reddington. This is sort of his philosophy on life. It's not heartless at all. And really, I just love Aram and Reddington together. I love their scenes. I love Aramington, which I don't know if that is a phrase. If not, I am planting my flag on that now.
No, I really love that scene too, because you can still see how much hurt Reddington is carrying around with him, to say that, this is not Liz, this is her clothing, she's not here with us anymore. It's almost like he just needs that reminder himself to say it out loud so he doesn't get too lost in his mind. But to have Aram sort of just confirmed to be like, listen, I really hope that you find some healing with this, because even though he doesn't said how hurt he is, you can see how hurt he is. And Aram has always cared very deeply for Reddington.
He really has. And Aram just has so much love to give everyone. And this is why Aram still needs some love before the end of this show. Give him another love interest, but okay.
If not, we love him, not as a love interest.
I was about to say, but no, I everybody loves Aram. How can you not love Aram? Now, the Conglomerate. Let's get into the Conglomerate, because, we've already talked about how the name of the Conglomerate sucks. Apparently, they did not spend a lot of time brainstorming what they were going to call their organization.
Yeah, and I mean, the story was pretty good. It was good to have another story with Park and to learn what she was doing within those 2 years where Liz died and before the task force got back together again. We've learned that she was an assassin for hire, sort of through the government, so she felt like it wasn't all bad. But I mean, she's killing people, so it is what it is. But I mean, she's also an FBI agent, so that also kind of comes with that job as well. Anyone who's, an agent or, a cop or, in the army, like there's a possibility that could happen.
I have been pretty down on Park as a character throughout her time on the show. I will say I like this episode more than that big Park Alaska episode that we had, which really just felt like a big swing and a miss when we first got it. I have no good memories of it, really. And here, I at least feel like it connected well to what was going on in the present. There was like some real legitimate danger that was thrown in. I mean, yeah, other than this John dude, I don't care about anyone else in the conglomerate. I mean, I guess that is okay.
No, I really liked this episode for Park. I didn't want to just see another focus on this like bloodlust, and I know there
Yeah.
was a little bit of that, but this John coming back in gave sort of this. I mean, she had like some really good chemistry with him. Like there was something very much there. It was nice to sort of see that side of her
Yeah.
where it's a little more, into her feelings, and then to see the back and forth with her and Peter at that first meeting where, he's kind of funny and he's charming and he's
Yeah.
handsome, and why she decides to, give up that life and start this new life with Peter. And Peter was a character that we just didn't really know a lot about, and it was good to see that part of him where it was like, oh, okay, he's charming and he's funny, and I get it now. But this is where we're gonna get to something that I didn't like about Peter.
All
So
right.
if you're still with us, this is where it's gonna be just only my opinion. So if you guys don't agree, I get it. Tell me in the comments, why I'm wrong.
Okay,
But
you may not be wrong, just
no,
saying that.
it's just my
Yeah.
opinion. So we had this whole big thing at the end here where Peter was captured by John in their house, and he was watching everything that was happening. And John's kind of like, just so you know, your wife was an assassin, and this is all everything that's happening. They get into this huge fight because Park's like, I'm not going to let you hurt my husband. I am in love with him. I am not in love with you. I will do anything for him, including what's about to happen. So there's this huge scuffle, and he's like strangling Park in front of Peter.
Yeah.
So she finally gets out of that, and she grabs whatever she can because he's going for a gun. She's like, oh, what have I got? Okay, I'll use this to stop him. The look that Peter gave her was just of like disgust. I can't look at you. I can't believe that you would be like this or do something like this. And it felt very strange because she had saved his life, declared her love before doing this. She was going to be killed. He was strangling her in front of Peter. Like, this was self-defense. And it felt like the show maybe was trying to make it look a little like, oh, here's her bloodlust again, but it didn't feel like that. It felt like pure self-defense. John was reaching for a gun. She had nothing. What was she gonna do? So it felt a little bit odd to me that Peter was like, I can't even look at you. It's just like, she's an FBI agent. So yeah, you didn't know she was an assassin. Cool. But you knew she was an FBI agent. So you knew that killing people or hurting people might be part of her job. So, like, what, you think she worked at a Cinnabon or something? She was working at the laundromat?
First of all, with Cinnabon in mind, we will be covering Better Call Saul when the final season of that premieres in April. No, I'm going to assume that this was just a misstep from either the director or the way that this episode was mapped out, because I think that if they had shown Park really going fully over the edge with her bloodlust, and they had made this like really dark and maybe gruesome where John was already clearly dead and she was continuing to wail on him or do something like that that would have merited his reaction a little bit more, I think I would have bought into it more, because ultimately that conflict after John died wasn't needed, because it seems like, Peter still wants to be there and he still loves her. Like, if it was a situation where they weren't together anymore and he just took off, then yeah, I would understand, wanting to create conflict there, but that really wasn't even needed.
I feel like the real conflict would be that she was an assassin and kept that from him. That is the biggest sort of lie and deception that was going on. But he wasn't focused on that. He was focused on how she was behaving when trying to save his life. And I agree. I think if she had overdone it where John was clearly dead and she was still going, that makes sense. Then I could see Peter sitting back and being like, "Oh, I don't know. I saw something I can't unsee."
What I do appreciate is that at least we're getting interesting spotlights on all of these different characters at this point. They did a good job with the wrestler one. We had a little bit of a Rom. I still wish we had a little bit more of a Rom beyond what we got. Coming. But, I understand it was kind of sort of in a Rom one. But, okay, the other part of this episode that I truly loved, we got to talk about the Camel. The Camel deserves a People's Choice Award. Can we get is the Camel eligible for Outstanding Guest Actor at the Emmys?
Okay. This is good to see Brimley back.
I love Brimley, but it's also like, you guys went out of your way to find a camel for this show to infer all sorts of crazy and or disgusting things that we will not reference in this video, and you only used the camel for like 30 seconds? What is wrong with you people? Can we not have like 2 scenes of the camel? Can we not bring the camel back for something a little bit more?
No, it was cool. It was cool to see a camel there, and I'm sure they probably felt like it was cool to have it on set and all that.
Hashtag more camel. We need more of the camel on the show.
We know why he was there, Matt.
Listen. The Blacklist, they had like that weird episode where there were like bugs coming out of people's mouths. If I had to watch that, I can handle some inferred horrible stuff with the camel. But
camels really are just such like it was interesting that they picked a camel because camels are just, they're so cute and they're just, I don't know, lovely animals. My friend works at the Toronto Zoo and I had a chance to go and see baby camels once, and they're just adorable.
There's nothing you can't love about. This is why the Blacklist did this. They wanted to try to turn us around and make us hate animals that we love. They did it with the goat. They tried to do it with the camel. You people better not touch penguins. Okay, all right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and subscribe for more. Follow us on Instagram at MattandJessTV, and we will see you here next time.